Hello, my name is Christopher Dale, and I'm a sexy firefighter.
I'm using that for that.
No.
What's up, guys? All this talk about masculinity is just getting me, I don't know. I just want to explore masculinity more. So I thought I'd interview a real masculine man, a man's man, a real-life firefighter. That's right. So I hope you enjoy it, and just maybe you'll learn something. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Chris, who's a very manly firefighter. Can you tell? He was a firefighter. But he's still manly. He's still manly, though.
Maybe more so.
He says with that sexy glint in his eye. So yeah, a lot of stuff going out there in the world, a lot of stuff going on out there about men. What's it like to be a man? What does it mean to be a man? Masculinity, what is it? And I thought, let's talk to a firefighter, for God's sakes. Look at him, ex-firefighter. And just maybe explore this topic. What do you think of that?
Let's explore.
Let's explore. It's tough to because he's a very sexual guy. So even when he looks at me, there's that sexual energy, and it makes me giggle like a schoolgirl.
Really? It brings out your feminine.
A little tiny bit.
We could talk about your feminine instead if you'd like.
I mean, we could. Either way. But you said something earlier. Well, actually, just one question. I think that I want to ask. Why did you even decide to become a firefighter?
I didn't actually. My brother applied the year before, my older brother, and he didn't get in. And I didn't actually ever really want to be a firefighter. I didn't dream about it. Like, I meet kids nowadays that are like, their dads are like, hey, this guy was a firefighter. And they kind of go, because kids dream about it. But no, for me, it was like, it made practical sense. It was like, I applied and I wasn't really expecting to get in. And I did. And then it became known to me, like after I was doing it, that it was great. I was happy to be in it, but I didn't have an idea of what it was beforehand. I just kind of like, it's just one of those like horseshoes that came to me. Yeah. So, and I think I got in mostly because I was honest at the interview and I was told them I was epileptic. And I was like, just so you guys know, I'm epileptic. I don't know if that's a problem, but I think I remember watching the two guys interviewing me, these two big guys behind the desk with big beards, manly men. And their eyes just kind of, that caught their attention. I think before that, they didn't care about me. But then as soon as I showed that vulnerability, which is manliness, being open with yourself. And I think that was the ticket for me, actually, that got me in, because it's quite competitive to get accepted into it. Yeah. And then I learned about what it is after, and the first 3 years was quite hellish for me, actually. It was like, because I was 21, and of course I had good times in there, but I was with an all-native crew, and they became friends with me afterwards. But at first, like before I got there, the year before, they were all native guys, because they put you up north first. Not always, but usually you don't pick the right spot right away. You have to relocate when you have seniority, right? So, and they were tough guys, and I was with a few other white guys at the time on the crew, and they kind of, the native guys never picked on me, but one of the white guys did, to make himself not get picked on, So I never dealt with that in high school I never got bullied until I started firefighting. And then after a few years, it was all good. And then eventually I worked my way up to being my own crew boss, and I had all the respect and love from all the guys. There's no problem. But the first couple of years, for sure, I was like, I remember I had to, and I was moved away from home. I never lived away from home at that point. I was young. I was 20, 21, right? So it was a big growing process, for sure. It came with some pain, but victories, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, and it was manly at times. You're sweating in the sun, and and I was doing forest fires, right? So I wasn't doing house fires, which preferably for me is, I never did house fires. Sometimes we worked with house fires, but usually we're in the mountains, and that was like much better, because you're in helicopters all the time. You're working with like, pumps and chainsaws, and you're in the forest, and you're camping for weeks, sometimes at a time, and it's a pretty awesome job, actually. Super fun and great camaraderie with the guys, and athletic. You're feeling good because you're working hard, and you're also sitting around sometimes waiting for fires for weeks, sometimes drinking coffee and talking about nothing, and then all of a sudden you're really busy and working. Yeah.
Sounds like a really great adventure.
It was really great, and it was seasonal. I worked 7 months a year, so the rest of the year I got to travel or do other work. So it was ideal for those 10 years. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Did you guys talk about women a lot?
Oh, of course.
You must be talking about women a lot, right? You're out there, just a bunch of dudes.
It's pretty rah. I remember like at that point during my firefighter days is when I started to get philosophical, probably in the last like half of it. So like the conversations evolved into, like amateur philosophy at that point. but the beginning for sure, it was like, yeah, you're talking about girls, you're talking about sports. I never cared that much about sports, really. I never watched sports, or I played them, I never watched them. But you work out together. So there's like, you're kind of pumping iron in the gym, and you're working on the base, building like little things when you're at downtime. And so there's lots of talk about relationships and girls
but there wasn't one girl around, right?
No, sometimes there was. Yeah, sometimes there was. Usually it's men, but I'd say like, girls come in and out of it, like maybe 10% are women, roughly. So we usually, like, we had the first base I was at, it was all guys. There's 20 of us. It was all men. And then the second, and then I relocated to another base, and there was 9 of us there. And one of them was a girl at one point, so, and then a couple girls moved in and out, and so it kind of adds a nice dynamic, actually. If there's too many guys, it's like the woman energy.
Did it become like a total shit show? Like did a cute girl ever come and it caused problems? Like everybody was just going
a little
crazy?
bit. Yeah, it totally did, actually. Yeah,
I can see that happening, right?
Yeah. And usually the girls that do firefighting are more in their masculine than in their feminine,
right?
But not always. Some of them are quite feminine, and for whatever reason they go into firefighting because it's quite a masculine, it's kind of a goal-orientated kind of like physical job, right? Women are there, but usually they're more behind the scenes. But they do work the lines completely, but just as majority as men. Yeah, and yeah, of course, yeah, you get a woman in there, it changes everything. Some guys are like, oh, we got to downplay our lingo around the women, right. But then some guys are so in their like macho that they're screw that, fuck that. They're going to be even more so, right. And that would cause some problems because then it was a government job too, right? So everything's got to be kind of politically correct. I mean, of course, it's not politically correct, but if something gets comes out of the woodwork, and the higher ups hear about it, and then there's a talk, So those things happen. I was never bad. I was always like very, very respectful and very. Yeah, I was like a glue that kept a lot of it together, because you hang out with these people all the time, dramas arise, right? Because emotions and egos are colliding, So it's like a lot of the job is just keeping the peace between people, When you're busy, no problem, but when you're on downtime, it's like when you're in the training mode. Like the first usually few months of the summer, you're kind of training, getting everything recertified, and so there's a lot of like, a bit of boredom that kicks in, and then that's when the problems start.
I'd like to hear some of the non-politically correct stuff that happened, just for my own entertainment.
I'd have to like, so recalling memory. Okay. So like you do initiation too, like you do like, remember when we get a rookie, you'd basically like, you'd surprise them sometime in that season, and you would tie them up, and you would like throw mud on them or eggs, or you just. So when it comes to the girl situation, like that was, you always kind of want to make sure you don't grab a boob and all that kind of stuff. So I remember that. The girls were usually, because they were surrounded by so much male energy, they had to sort of adapt. The ones that didn't and tried to be really kind of more in their feminine, they would suffer because it's such a male-dominated energy. So like guys would be making comments, and there would be, I gotta think of a specific situation.
Did one of the guys ever like really try and hit on a girl, like he really liked her? Just like, no, I'm going to go for it, and just got brutally rejected. And it was like,
I can talk about me. Like I had this crush on this girl firefighter once, and I was in my nice guy mentality, like we were talking about before. At that point. So this is probably like, how old was I at that point? Like 25 maybe or something. And we were friends, so there was that nice guy, which was natural because it was friends. But there was also part of me that had the thing for her. And I just never got anywhere with her, because if I was just naturally the leader role that I was playing in the job, when I had to be a leader, but then when it would be one-on-one with her, I would bitch out. I remember. I learned through, like we all do, right? Through those series of, kind of mistakes that we go through. They're not mistakes, but learning curves. So yeah, because she was never into me. She never into me because I was too trying to appeal to her feminine, not being in my masculine. Right? You know what I mean?
I sure do. I mean, so many guys do that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We've all do it, like we were talking about before. We do it until we learn it doesn't work, right? And then we have to come up with a more authentic strategy. Because it's not authentic, right? Like, of course it's authentic to be a genuine, nice person, like if that is your nature, which most of us is at the core. But at the same time, if you're pushing it and you're like not honoring your own self, or you're not setting your own you're not in your own authority, then that's not attractive, because it's not natural. People want realness.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Men or women. Like a woman's not going to respect me if I'm being a super nice guy, or I'm not follow throughing, or I'm not being masculine, and a man's not going to trust me either. Like why? Yeah.
That's right. It's amazing how many strategies we try and use that don't actually work.
Exactly. And the only strategy is to be real to yourself. And that takes time. That takes a process of learning.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot about leadership and firefighting because you're in situations that are, quite stressful at times. You make decisions really quick. And so that was definitely my masculine. You'd be flying to a fire in a helicopter. And when I was the last 5 years of it, I had my own little crew. There was 3 of us. And so I was using the front seat of the helicopter, and the 2 guys that work with me are behind. And, you kind of reconnaissance the fire, you circle around, you check things out, and you got to make decisions right away. You're like, oh, how big is it? Where's our water source? Do we need more people? Do we need an excavator, another helicopter? You can't be sort of flowing in the moment. You are flowing. You have to be in your center, but at the same time, you have to make decisions. You have to be very kind of purposeful in that moment. Yeah. So that was helped my masculine a lot, actually. And making mistakes, like fires get away, and you're like, whoa, I thought I knew what I was doing, but we sat for lunch when we shouldn't have, and the fire got away. And so being humble enough to know that okay, I make those decisions. I think I'm making the right decisions. And sometimes they're still not the right decisions, but still following through. Mm-hmm. It's I learned that in jazz school too. When you're playing music, you make a mistake in the guitar, you just fall through. You don't hold on to that mistake because then everyone knows it's a mistake. If you just keep playing, it's oh, that was kind of a deliberate thing you just did. I mean, that's the perception. Yeah. You learn that in comedy, right? I would imagine.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Oh yeah. You do some jokes and it's well, it wasn't funny, and then you
just keep moving.
Yeah,
right?
You just gotta, you might make a joke about that, sort of that'll help you, but then you're just gonna keep it going. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm assuming with pickup too, right? In the past, you would, rejection, you just keep going, right? It's part of it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that was the main thing. I think that was one of the main things that really kind of blew guys away, is that they would see me just, girl would just not be interested, and I would be like, okay.
And you're not fazed by it. You learn to just cool. It's not personal.
Yeah, no, she doesn't like me. That's fine.
It's fine.
And then the next one will, hopefully. And and if she doesn't, that's okay as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we can't like everybody, or everybody can't like us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really tough when as a man you're really creating. You're living this idea that if other people will like you or give you, their love or their acceptance or their approval, then you're enough. But it never works. Mm-mm. It never works. It's always temporary, because there's always going to be people who don't like you or don't give you their approval or hate your guts. And then what? What are you going to do? You're going to live under a rock? Are you going to just leave the city that you live in because someone doesn't like you? It's you need to be okay with yourself.
You have to be.
And if yourself is where all the deepest joy is, actually just being who you are in every moment.
Exactly.
Just being true to yourself in every moment. And then there's no, not only isn't need for approval, there's not even a need to do anything, because you're just complete being you, just being comfortable in your own skin. Exactly. And it's such a profound shift when you're there. It's just and
it's so funny. We'll do so many things. We'll exhaust so many options to avoid doing that.
Yeah.
Until we finally fall flat in our face the last time. We're that's it. The only answer is to what you just said.
Yeah, just let go.
Be in the moment as it is now, and whatever comes, and embrace that, whether it's the fear, whether it's feeling shitty, or whether it's feeling wonderful, but it's kind of that's what else can we depend on?
Well, interesting, because for me it was always just, I didn't think of it in terms of masculinity. That was just self-development for me. It was just getting over that fear of rejection, working on myself, going for what I want. But it is a very masculine trait to be present, just to hold that space and to be present.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's almost like a typical, almost like a cartoon. The woman's freaking out, throwing pots and pans and freaking out, and then it's just there,
exactly. That's how I perceive it. I guess you can look at it in lots of ways, but the masculine and the feminine is we both have both. Whether you're male or female, you have both masculine and feminine. But the masculine, like you said, is kind of like this permanent rock, this sort of solid. And the feminine flows around that, kind of dances around that. And both are equally beautiful and perfect and necessary. But the male is the steadfast. Yeah. And to me, that's the stillness, the permanence, and then almost the feminine is sort of the Maya, the circle of phenomenon all happening around us. Yeah. And for me, I'm currently in my state where I want to be embracing both of those. I want to be that stillness, and I also want to be embracing all that phenomena, that is movement around me, but maintaining that.
That's the key right there. That's really the key in life. We get so caught up in the world and in the mind, right? Like it's been my biggest challenge my whole life has been this super active mind that's just always going, thinking and worrying, thinking about the past, thinking about the future. What am I going to do? And the ability to just get into your center and just chill out and just appreciate that everything is perfect always and you're good. Everything is okay. And then from that place of strength, of peace, really, to really feel into what do I really want to do?
Yes.
What do I really want to create? And then when it really arises like strong, like, yeah, I do want to go start this business. Yeah, I do want to go find an amazing woman. Yeah, I do want to travel to Tibet, like whatever it is. But when it really comes from that depth, not from like, I should be more successful or society thinks I should have this job or, like people will think I'm cool if I do this. No, all of that is just complete crap. But when it arises from deep within you, and you really sit, and you're able to really sit with it. And this is such an important thing that we're not taught, that should be taught to everybody, to be able to sit with yourself and to really feel what's coming up, whether it's emotions, frustration, anger, joy, whatever. And even just, that's where your purpose comes from. Literally, when it arises, like what you want to do with your life, it's not going to come from a book. It's not going to come from a TV ad. It's going to come from within. It's coming from within.
No one can tell you what it is.
And to be able to take that stillness and into the world and do all the craziness, but just maintain that peace. That's...
And it's an art. It's like walking a tightrope, I find. Your balance goes back and forth and you fall off and then you get back on and, but what else to do? Because once you've seen everything else doesn't work, then you're willing to put in the work to basically be able to walk that rope, Like it's natural to us, but we're taught differently, right? Like you said, society doesn't understand that generally. Like people now, a lot of people are learning it, but it's an alternative sort of method of understanding. It's not what schools teach. It's not what parents generally teach. Basically they're just constantly feeding you information. They're not allowing you to discover that yourself. So
right. There's no discovery at all. It's all just memorization.
No, conscious parenting is now happening more and more. I mean, it's happening, but it's movement. It's not the norm. Yeah, hopefully it'll be the norm. I think it will be. It's going that way, right? But it takes, there's a lot of learning curves in the way.
What would you say to someone who's listening to this and it sort of makes sense to them, like mentally, like, oh yeah, it would be cool to sit and really allow things to come up and find your center. But actually, for me, it was impossible for so many years. Yeah. My mind was too active. Totally. I couldn't meditate. I couldn't do any of that. So what would be a tip for someone who's a beginner and would like to try and sit and really connect with themselves on a deeper level?
I would say, like for me at least, which came more easy to me, but it definitely deepened as I got into it more, is the willingness to get uncomfortable. Is like, because the mind is uncomfortable, and usually an untrained mind is uncomfortable. So usually what we're doing is, like you said, we're distracting ourselves with everything possibly outside of us to sort of not have to really feel and be with our mind. So to sit there and be with our mind and be with our emotions, be with our image of ourselves, be with our image of the world, everything that we project, that takes getting a little uncomfortable, because you have to face all these things that you might judge yourself for, that you might judge other people for, because, oh, that's my mother's voice in my head, or that's this influence, or there's the tendency to blame everything outside of ourselves more than there is to take responsibility for ourselves. So it's going to be uncomfortable. So going into it sort of knowing that, like, okay, you kind of have two choices of pain in life. It's one way of looking at it. It's like, okay, I have the pain of going directly into myself and going through that uncomfortable, but it's like pulling a Band-Aid off quick versus slowly pulling it off and learning those lessons so slowly over life, and having major catastrophes happen. Like the only difference I think between a wise person and an unwise person is that a wise person volunteers himself on that path, where an unwise person, they just kind of go with the flows and ebbs of life, thinking that they're a victim to it, So being uncomfortable and simple little things of like what you did with the pickup thing. You're getting uncomfortable by going out and treating these girls, by meeting these girls, or like we talked about the other day, just having a cold shower, like just that little symbology of like, oh, I'm going to put my body in this cold environment for like 5 minutes and just get used to like being in that uncomfortable state, because sitting and meditating for hours or deep yoga or any type of interest, there's going to come with some uncomfortableness to it. So be okay with that. Be a man about it, or be a woman, because women are very much on that path just as much. Of course, it's not necessarily a masculine trait, but it's just like, be willing to go through that, because that the benefits and the effects far outweigh the consequences in the moment to feel that little bit of uncomfortableness. Because once you relax into that uncomfortableness, it's not uncomfortable anymore. It's just a resistance that's uncomfortable. The actual process itself, like meditating, or any of those things is beautiful. It's a beautiful, your body, your whole soul wants it, but there's the resistance that is uncomfortable. So it's just going through that resistance. And then once we surrender to that resistance, usually the resistance has to come so strong, and then the surrender happens. But if we can consciously volunteer into that process, we can surrender much easier and more quickly and more efficiently, you could say, like spiritual efficiency, whatever. You can really put yourself on that path. And then you can, like, I do a practice sometimes, I still do it nowadays, but I don't do it as often as I used to. I would just lie in savasana, like the yoga pose, we're just lying on the ground. And I just don't move for hours. And I just feel the kind of tensions arise in the body, and I just keep relaxing them. Because like if I want to stretch or massage myself, which is really helpful for the way the body feels, but the best way for me to relax my body is to do it through like conscious relaxation through attention. And then I just feel those, and it's uncomfortable. Like I'll feel pain, like specifically, I still get a little bit in the shoulder, and it'll start contracting. And it almost feels like an entity that wants to rise out of my body. And I just keep sending loving attention there, relaxing it. And it's an uncomfortable process, but it's not uncomfortable for me anymore because I'm used to it now. It's it's actually like a pleasurable. It becomes a sensation. It's not a pain anymore. And if people are willing to just start that path, I mean, it's step by step, like everything, right? You just take one step at a time. And if you look at the big picture, it's overwhelming. But you just take the action you can right now. Like, what can someone do right now in this moment? Like, I can go take a cold shower. Anyone can go do that. Whatever it is, I can go walk out in the rain. Or do whatever. Like to not be. Comfort is dulling. It's very dulling, and most of us are in that comfort zone unless we're willing to get beyond that.
Well, I think that's a huge problem with our society. Is that if
Seeks
you're in the
comfort.
West, you're things are okay. You have enough food, you have enough water, you have enough shelter. So there's no deep yearning to, like things are, but some, and this is the thing, right? This really is the thing. For me, I was just never okay with just settling for things being okay or
Awesome,
mediocre. I couldn't. And for me, it's confusing when I see other dudes and they're just like, oh, it's, it's fine like it is. Just go to work.
It's not fine though.
But
right?
it's not fine
It's
at
not.
all.
They say it's fine, but
they
it's
say
not.
it's fine, but
It's
they're
not.
unhappy and they're just drowning it away with like whatever distraction,
Whatever they can do.
TV and booze and whatever. And it's like they never made that decision, that one choice. And I think it really comes down to like one decision in your life where you just go, I want more.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm willing to work. I
More.
want to change. I want to improve myself.
Exactly.
I want to improve the conditions, of my life.
And find support. Like you're not alone. Like something like this, watching a video like this, or watching so many people talking about this that have gone through this, themselves. Like get that community going, because if you think you're alone in it, man, that's hellish.
Yeah.
If you know that other people are going through this or have gone through it, and look at where they've come to. I mean, you need that inspiration. We're social creatures, we need our space, but we need our community. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's just like I've been inspired by so many people. If it wasn't for those people, it's just like we wouldn't have made those steps always. Yeah. There's humility in that, right? I think there's a lot of humility in masculinity. Like lots of being humble enough to know that, like, yes, I am masculine and I am a male, but maybe I'm not fully a man yet. Like knowing that too. Like we don't have rite of passage in our society either. It's a big culture. It's not like how many times? I mean, almost always do I see full adult men that are still very much boys. It's very common. You can be a CEO of a big company and you can still be a boy.
Yeah. And
like in your emotional maturity or your intellectual, your relationships, all these kinds of things, So yeah, like looking at yourself, what do I value to be a man? And am I doing that? Or am I, because we got to know where we're at now before we can really vision where we want to be as well, right? So we got to be honest with ourselves, and that takes humility and masculinity and, sincerity.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's part of it's like, and it never ends. It's not like I've finished that process or you have, right? I feel like it's a never ending deepening, right? So you don't get to a point and you're done.
Yeah. It's like so many, I think it's really difficult for most guys because the idea, it's been programmed in that the idea of success, it's not about being authentic or finding yourself or finding your purpose. None of those things are progress. It's just, get the really good job, get the education, get the house, get married, have kids. I mean, that's that's the idea.
So those belief systems have to be
like,
investigated. Yeah,
they have to be investigated deeply.
Big time. And who's going to do that other than yourself, right? Or talk to your friends, whatever, talk to people about it. But realistically, you have to ask yourself those questions. What matters to me?
Well,
And we all know. It's not that we don't know. It's that we have a lot of other confusing ideas in the way. So it's just filtering through those confusing ideas and putting them off to the side. And being still, like we start 10, 15 terms. That's the only way. You got to add spaciousness to the mind.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just running programs thinking you're conscious.
Right.
It's not the case, though.
Yeah. Yeah, a really huge thing I've noticed for me is it's the balance between the resting / introspection / not doing, and then the going out and really doing.
Totally.
And if I'm just, and I've had times where I'm just super gung ho motivated. I'm doing, I was teaching all these courses going around the world, and I had a great time, and I helped people, and it was wonderful. But some part of you just gets worn down if you don't take the time to just sit and heal and really connect. Because we're always changing and evolving, and if you don't sit down and actually feel into what's changed, who am I now?
Yeah.
Different than I was,
Even 10 minutes ago.
Even 10 minutes ago. I was going to go 3 months ago. But
right?
even, yeah.
Exactly.
But if we're always go all the time, and this is what I see, my friend Henry just sent me a message just now that I got. He's in, he was just in Canary Wharf, which is like a sort of like a busy part of London. There are a lot of people with suits running around, doing their jobs. And he said he was looking at these people and they were just absolutely soulless, just balding guys like guts physically and balding, wearing these suits, physically unhealthy, just and they're so unhappy with their lives. The only solution they have is just to work harder and to make more money, and they're just literally just killing themselves. Yeah. And I was like, God, I'm so happy not to be that.
I feel like
exactly. It's brutal.
It's brutal. It's all perfect.
And
in
if
the
one of those
sense
guys came here for a couple of weeks and just sat,
oh yeah, change things.
It might just go, no, I'm done.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I remember years ago I had the realization that the most efficient way to spend my time, which sounds contradictory and intuitively, is to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we're like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to work on this, and which is also true. Action needs to be made. But like the most, it just is so obvious to me. The most efficient thing I can do right now is sit here and relax. Like that's the way there's no way I could better spend my time than that, because of how that fulfills itself into every other aspect of your life. If you don't have that cleansing process, that shower for your whole soul, you're just running around like a chicken without its head off.
It's brutal. It's so brutal.
Yeah.
It's so brutal. And I have these moments of absolute clarity where I've realized this multiple times, and then sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. But
yeah, it comes and goes.
Comes and goes. But when I take the time to put myself into that state of bliss and peace and tranquility by doing my rituals, my yoga, my 5 Tibetans, putting on the Tibetans chanting and putting on some incense, whatever rituals you got to do, even just listening to your favorite music can be it for many people and works for me. But when you really take the time to put yourself into that state of just feeling great, and for me, it's really connecting with the divine, with the infinite one. For me, that's that connection.
Sure.
But it could just be just feeling good or just loving on yourself or whatever just puts you in that good mood. But from that space.
Yeah, come from that place.
When I'm in that space, anything I have to do throughout the day, work stuff, even if it's going to town and standing in a line and filling out some form, whatever it is, it's not work. It's not unpleasant because I'm being love. I'm being in that beautiful state. So, and we don't take the time. We don't take the time.
Not. And I can see why. I can see why. If I put myself in a position where
because we're out there to try to make $1 million.
Or supporting our family. Imagine we're just surviving. Imagine we're just in a survival situation where, in a sense, we're just trying to pay the bills. We got to fix our car. We got to drive to work. We got to feed the kids. We put them to school. I can see why all those things have to take. Do we have to stop or?
No, you got 60 seconds.
We have to take priority for those things, but we can still integrate a little bit of that being piece by piece, because experience has to prove it to us. We can't just listen to a couple of guys saying, "Oh, you got to be in your being." You got to feel the being, but you got to start with little steps. It just take 15 minutes. Everyone can afford 15 minutes, And yeah, the first 15 minutes, the first 6 months of doing that, maybe you're not even going to have much profound. Maybe, hopefully, you will, but sometimes it's establishing that, And if we're so conditioned to be another thing, we gotta do what makes sense to us, and just a little bit we can hopefully we can make the understanding that a little bit of this makes sense, and then from that it will grow.
Hey, we're back. We're back. We had some mangoes.
Out of papaya.
Anyway, we had a papaya. Maybe just to make it interesting, I'll rub you a little bit. That's another thing. Men are afraid of affection, showing men affection or any affection.
Exactly. Yeah.
I rub this guy all the time, pretty much everywhere except his wiener. I've rubbed this man. Is that right?
I get it, maybe. Yeah.
That make you uncomfortable?
No, it's nice. No, I think, yeah, if you're comfortable in your sexuality, then yeah, you're not worried about it, right?
No. There's
Yeah.
nowhere else to put my arm but on your shoulders.
Mm.
Yeah, just be super, super gay. So we covered a bunch of stuff. I think a bunch of nice lessons. What would you say are some obstacles? Like what would you say would be like? What was your main obstacle that sort of you overcame to sort of come into your power? What was the one thing that was kind of like you knew it was holding you back, and eventually you got over it, and we're like, oh, then we're like, yes, I did it. I feel much better now.
Mm.
Was there like one?
For me, like a big one was holding on to what I perceived to be something negative that happened in the past, and then by that not helping myself to move forward, like holding on to pain instead of reinterpreting it as a lesson and moving forward. Like I sold a house and then like I regretted the decision because the market went way up after that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So anyways, simple thing, not a big deal, but like little things like that. And then for that, I was afraid to make any financial decisions for a while after that.
Mm-hmm.
So just not rolling with the punches. So that was, I speak about it like it's a little thing, but it was, for me personally, it was a big one. It was a big deal for a while. I was like, yeah. And you have to like, I had to break new barriers, make new successes to reestablish that confidence in myself. But I could have done it much faster. Like now, if I have mistakes, I just like you can't do things without making mistakes, right? It's like you want to be successful. Basically you have to like. I'd rather be a bull in a china shop right now and just like running through things and making things happen rather than being a deer in headlights and just stopped and not actually taking any action. So now, yeah, like I say the word mistake, but I don't even use that word anymore. Really, it's just a lack of a better word. So yeah. Like when we built this place, there was lots of little things that you just like, oh, that's not perfect, but you just keep moving or else it would never get done. Yeah.
So don't dwell on that.
Don't dwell on those like little, what you consider to be little failures. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think the only difference, people say it, right? The only difference between people that really do well and people that don't is that the people are just willing to make those failures. It's because we're all going to make them. Mm-hmm. It's not that anyone's perfect, this human being that doesn't have fallacies.
Yeah, it's true. And it's really just the mind, right? It's just ego coming up. Oh, you messed up. You could have been this. You could have had this.
Exactly.
You could have had more money. And it's just like, it's all make believe.
It's all make believe. So like,
it's all stories.
Mind, yeah. It goes in limitless directions, right? Can disguise itself in limitless costumes. But at the end of the day, it's all just activity of mind. So to me, it really helps to know that mind is not a thing, it's an activity. Like if I put it as a noun, then it's this sort of like almost inconquerable thing, because mind will come back and it's super heavy. But the thing is, its activity is moment to moment. So at any time, there's no mind if you want. And then mind will come back again, but it's a verb, not a noun. So this is really helpful because it is moment to moment. Life is, well, it's only one moment, but it feels like moment to moment. You're just constantly streaming through experience. But if we try to think that we have to conquer this ego, it's like, good luck. I mean, maybe some people get there, but I think it's more about just like really like moment to moment, settling in, being with yourself, relaxing into it. Yeah.
That's a really big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same thing. Now that you mentioned it, I had a apartment. I paid $260 for it. Sold it for like just over $300, and like a few years later, it's worth like $1 million.
Totally, yeah. And
Downtown
my similar
Toronto.
story, not as dramatic, but yeah.
Oh yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, and I sold, and I sold mine. I don't know why you did yours, but I sold mine because I was influenced by somebody else that was fearful about the market and expected prices to drop. So I was kind of not in my power.
Right.
I wasn't investigating. I wasn't responsible for the decision. It was an emotional decision.
Yeah.
And I learned from that though, big time. So, and basically also just not getting sucked into other people's realities.
That's so huge, man. Like with mine, it's exactly that. There was a woman, I didn't even really want to sell it. And there was a woman who kept pressuring me, and I kind of could have used the money, and eventually I was like, all right, fuck it. But actually, if I just thought it through, it's because in my whole life, in so many ways, I wasn't in my power.
Exactly.
So I was, and the reason I kind of needed the money is because I was pissing away money because other people were basically using me for my money at the time, and I wasn't strong enough to actually say no. So I was just doing this.
Yeah.
And of course, after I sold that place, guess what happened? I dumped all the money as well. So yeah, so it really comes down to that, just being connected to yourself.
That's it, right? And it's like, yeah, and it's easy to talk about, but to like actually apply it to your own personal life situation, that takes courage and sincerity and patience and love, which are all masculine qualities, I think. Like a man is very, very strong, very fierce, but very kind, very open-hearted. Yeah. 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 He's like a warrior, but a spiritual warrior. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things people don't, they don't put that part in the movie because it's not that exciting. But the warrior is not just goes out and fights. He knows when not to fight. He knows when to negotiate. He knows when to retreat. He's wise.
Yeah, exactly.
A real warrior has the wisdom to go, nope, no need for anyone to die. We just can sneak out that back of the mountain and let us see these guys again.
Exactly.
Like, why would we lose half our people
for sure,
in this fight?
Sure.
We could just, right there, there's a hole right there. We could just leave tonight. We'll never see them. There's no need.
Yeah, because
that's it.
Who are you fighting anyways? It's like, who are we even against?
The Jews.
The who?
The Jews.
Okay.
Come on. We're gonna pick one battle. The Jews. No.
But no, really, yeah, right? Like, it's just like, it's always a personal thing. It's always like, me against the world is an illusion.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the battle, if there is one, is with the darkness of not knowing oneself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that.
Which causes all that conflict externally, which is imaginary. It feels real, but it's like, yeah. I mean, and there is some reality. It's confusing to even say that because I don't subscribe to that it's all illusion. I feel like it's illusion and it's real. Both are happening at the same time. So, because like if I get punched in the face, it's real, right? My nose is broken. But at the same time, I also am under the understanding that this is not what we perceive it to be by any means. So for me, both are true. It's like it's the non-dualistic 1 and 2 are both true. Like we're separate and we're also one.
That's right.
That's my kind of.
But now we're getting quite spiritual.
Now we're getting a little off track.
There's a whole other podcast we got to do.
But it all applies. It's all that, right? It really boils down to like those real deep, like kind of like essential, fundamental understandings. Everything filters off of that. The foundation has to be. Yeah. That's why I feel like if people really want to learn about like themselves, like go for the essential core, like whatever speaks to you, but go for like the real foundation teachings and then build on top of that. Yeah. Which is, which is deep spiritual stuff. Yeah. If that's your calling, if it's not your calling, then that's fine too. There's lots of things to do.
It's interesting because as I get deeper into the spiritual, I realize it really comes down to how you're living your life.
Yeah.
What you're choosing to feel, what actions you're taking, what's going on. It's really living integrally.
Yes.
It's really important.
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing. Even if you're like, no, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any of that woo stuff. I don't care. I'm a person and I'm here for 80 years and then I'm out and that's it. So I just want to do this life and there's nothing else. Even if you're coming from that place, the funny thing is, if you bring in that integrity and you bring in those principles that you get when you go on the spiritual path, actually your life will be much better and more peaceful. You still get all the benefits.
Whether you believe you're spiritual or not is almost irrelevant, right? It's like what's actually happening is what matters. Like my dad is not spiritual at all in the sense of he doesn't talk about spirituality and doesn't believe in any of this kind of stuff, but he's we had this conversation, right? He'll welcome someone into his home. He's very open, very giving. He's all the things that most spiritual people kind of strive to be. Yeah. But if you say God to him, he just shuts down because he was raised in a Catholic church where it's like hellish environment, right? It's got nothing to do with God. Right? Yeah. 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 Not in the truest sense, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I say I have a video coming up shortly where title of the video is how religion is anti-God.
Right.
And it is because it separates you from yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, because even the external idea of an externalized God is, to me, like it's a level of understanding, but it's not the deepest level. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Yeah, religion causes lots of problems, right? It's obvious, right? It helps a lot of people too. Like there's a church where my mom goes to and it's full of love, actually. It's really great, but it's very dogmatic too. So it's like it fits certain people at certain times. Yeah.
So many layers.
Yeah, there's so many layers. It's like whatever speaks to us, whatever we're attracted to. Go there, but with consciousness, with awareness. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. There's really no replacement for consciousness. Like there's no replacement for it, right? It's just like you can do anything in your life, but if you do it consciously, then you're on the right path.
Yeah. And interestingly, consciously means that you're picking it. You know, you're aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Which means if you're doing something that really makes you unhappy and you're aware of it and you're aware of how it makes you feel, well, it gives you that hope of changing something or breaking up. But if you're totally unaware, you're just like, oh, fuck it, life sucks. And you just keep doing it. You're not really present with it. Well, you could be doing that for years and suffering.
Well, yeah, because you don't even know that's the trick. It's like unconsciousness doesn't even know it's unconscious. You know, I like saying that because it's so true. Like how many times in my life have I been completely unconscious thinking I was being deliberate with my actions? I was just literally running off programs and conditionings that were comfortable. And even though they were painful, I was addicted to them. So yeah, like presence is the only way, like stopping and taking a moment, feeling your sensations, being where you are, feeling your body, listening to your mind, you know, like listening to it, not just hearing it. Adding that adding that awareness, you know, which is really what we are. That's our actual identity, is that awareness anyways. So it's just a transition of allegiance to who we really are.
Yeah. Well, now we're getting real spiritual, because I know what you mean, but there may be people going,
okay, that's fine. And that's fine. I'm not trying to like spread some spiritual dogma or beliefs or whatever. It's just...
Well, that wasn't dogma. That's a fact. We're consciousness. Because if you don't have consciousness, you're not here.
That's my understanding. I mean, to me, it's completely practical too. It's not some cloudy, airy-fairy kind of talk. It's like, once it's digested through some experiences that we've had, it's as obvious as eating a banana tastes like a banana, right? It's like, it's just that's life. I came from an incredibly atheist background. Like I was super atheist and I don't consider myself religious. I don't even like the word spiritual, because everything is spiritual to me now. It's just life. It's just a way of perceiving life. So yeah, because it's a big word, container word that triggers a lot of people, right? Spirituality or God and all these things. It's like there's too many associations with them. We have to constantly keep making new names for them, because they're only symbols anyways.
Yeah, words are very limiting.
Very limiting, right? Because you can't talk about the unknown through language. Like the mind, that's another trick. Like the mind doesn't meditate. Like, you know, people are like, oh, I'm going to sit down and meditate, but it's not the mind that actually meditates. We can relax the mind to enough where the mind kind of spontaneously allows space for being to be there. But the mind doesn't actually do it. So how can the mind know that place? It cannot understand that place from its point, you know, of view, because it's a compartmentalizing machine. Yeah. Are we getting off track?
Either we're getting off track or we're getting totally
on track.
Or we're getting all the good stuff.
Yeah. Because it boils down to that stuff, right? Because when you start going down your path of learning yourself, you basically have to inquire into your mind. What are your thoughts that are limiting you? And then you start to realize that all those thoughts are kind of just passing, and just they're not really who you are, actually. You know, we can build this construct, but yeah. And we all get caught in it still, right? Like I wake up and I think about what's going on, and I think it's all real and true, and in some level it is, but not ultimately.
Yeah, it's only in the last few months I finally really clicked. You know, when Eckhart Tolle says identification with ego or with the mind, it's like, oh yeah,
right,
because it's just like, I'm not that.
Exactly.
It's an absolute separation. Like when I really sit and just tune into my beingness, like who am I? Like when I say I am, I'm not talking about Sasha. I am is just presence.
Yes.
That is the totality of my being is actually just I am.
Yeah.
I exist. And Sasha's like this great character, and I can go and do things. Sasha can go and do all the blah, 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 but it's just, I know it's not me.
Exactly. And then the weight of Sasha has been lifted. Right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Because you see it as a, you know, as a construct.
It's more of a play at this point. Yeah, exactly. But to talk about it intellectually is like, it might spark some interest in people, and it can do that, right? But unless people have really had that experience.
Yeah, that's why it's so, and like this is why it's so important, again, just to make that that decision to truly get to know yourself.
Yeah.
And most people don't
commit to that.
They don't take the time. And there's so many ways, you know, whether it's meditation or yoga or going for long walks or going out into nature by yourself or, maybe going bungee jumping for some people. God, there's so many things, but just really taking the time to hang out with you and just be in your own space.
Exactly. That's the only thing that I've committed to actually in my life is that.
You're an expert at that. This guy, listen, if he's going to end up doing some kind of course one day, or if he's usually going to be teaching, it's not firefighting. It's being alone and in your own space and like just hermiting and going deep within. That's what this guy does.
Yeah, but I'm hoping to come out of that shell a little more now. Yeah.
Well, I guess you are.
It's
now.
happening. Yeah, it's happening. But yeah, exactly. Well, it just made sense to me. I guess it comes a point in someone's life when that particular thing makes sense, and something else will make sense afterwards. But yeah, because I can't really commit to any future imaginary thing, but I can commit to being in the moment now.
That's a pretty big commitment, actually.
Well, yeah, and it's not an easy one because everything. The habitual tendency of the programming is to constantly be trying to go somewhere else. Right? So it's constantly like alertness and sensitivity is just like really important. So like whatever I can do in my life to harness more energy so I can do that more clearly and purely. Yeah. And it's exciting. It's fun. Right?
I think if the people in the world knew that how much more you can actually go out and do and accomplish and how much joy and peace and bliss you can feel by actually taking that time to connect with yourself.
Yeah.
Because from that peace and clarity, from that from that inner place, everything manifests. It's from the silence.
Everything.
When you're so busy running around, you don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You don't even know what you're doing. You're just out there doing things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Making money to pay for this thing. And,
and the big illusion is you don't have time for that, right? I don't have time.
Exactly. I don't have time for me.
But it's like, okay, well, everybody has the same amount of time in the day, right? I don't have 25 hours and somebody else has 24. It's like, I guess what your priorities are.
Yeah.
And the priorities come from understanding. So do what you can to understand it, to motivate yourself to do it. Some of us get the grace where we just have this massive awakening spontaneously, but not always. Most of the time, people go through suffering, a lot of suffering, and they finally exhaust all their options, and that's their last one. Mm-hmm. Because it's the most difficult thing to do is really go inside you, really, because there's so much resistance to facing oneself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, huge.
Right? So it's the most difficult thing to do. It's much easier or much more difficult than starting a big company or whatever, I would imagine. I mean, that could be difficult too, but still, it's not to the same existential level that it goes when you, and it benefits everybody in your life. Because if I was doing it just for me, I would have gave up a long time ago. Right? So it's like you're doing it because you know it ripples into everybody.
Yeah. I think that's why the system is so sneaky, because it just keeps everybody so busy.
Yeah.
Everything's just there to keep you real busy,
Busy.
Work.
And there's better technology all the time to keep you more and more distracted.
More and more distracted.
I feel like it's pushing, like if I compare it on an individual level, like people usually get pushed into a corner before they start to evolve, usually. So I feel like humanity's in the same kind of situation, The situation is getting more and more urgent where we're going to be forced to evolve. So I feel like it's all perfectly happening as it is. It's kind of messy right now, but
it's messy, and I think it's going to get messier.
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are getting better right now, very fast.
That's right.
And a lot of people that are getting worse.
Boy, my last 3 years, woo! It's been a roller coaster.
Yeah. So take your pick, right? Take your pick. What kind of route do you want to pursue? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even if you do it completely for selfish reasons, because you just literally want to have a better life.
Yeah, you just want to be happier. Yeah. It's such a funny thing, because even when we give people direct tools for like, hey, this will make you way more happy, they still won't do it. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's like what do you want more than being happy?
Yeah.
There's clearly, because they're picking something other than happపింess. So obviously some part of you wants to not be happy.
Totally. I've been guilty of it.
And what the hell is that?
Yeah.
That's what is that?
Yeah.
Why would anyone choose unhappiness?
I think they're still choosing happiness, but they're choosing the wrong thing that they think this will get them happy. Because everybody wants to feel better, but we think that this other thing will work. So we have to exhaust those options. We got to we got to keep emptying or keep trying to fulfill ourselves through something that's empty.
Right.
And then eventually you kind of like exhaust yourself, realizing. So it's better if you pay attention, you know? Okay. So if you want to go get that brand new car or get that beautiful girl or whatever, and that's all fine to have anyways, but just observe how you feel when you get those things. So that way, when you get them, you can be like, oh, okay, did it give me what I wanted? How long did it last? You know? And then when you're reaching for that new thing, you know, potentially maybe it's going to be the same outcome, you know? Just, we have to go through that process, I feel, because you can't hear it from somebody else. You sort of have to get disappointed yourself. I mean, that was my trip, but I think for most people it's that way. Mm-hmm. So you can rapidly accelerate that if you do it consciously. Unconsciously, you'll just keep chasing the next thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's bringing that awareness even to suffering.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's so interesting, you know.
Totally.
Be present in your suffering.
I feel like that's some of the being consciously suffering is like transforms into like absolute presence. It's like you just like, wow, it's like it's such a portal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very big. I think that's very profound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's something in pain that is very evolutionary. Mm-hmm. We don't always have to learn through pain. We can learn very much through joy and all this other stuff, but there seems to be a painful element usually.
Mm. Such an epic view. It's almost like distracting. Like
the view is amazing.
Because I just took a breath and I was just looking at those trees and I was just super chill.
But they don't see the view right now.
No. You know what I'll do? I'll show it. Okay. I'll cut it into it. Yeah. I'll get a shot when it's not middle of the day, so people can see the view.
So if people listen this long, I mean,
you deserve the view.
Well, just and thank you for listening to us. If it was in any way helpful or inspiring.
Yeah, it was like half masculinity, half spirituality.
Yeah, good. Exactly. But it's all connected. It's all the same.
Yeah,
it's all the same.
It's all one big hangout, isn't it?
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm really, this masculinity thing is a current hot topic. What is masculinity?
It is, and I think we'll probably, you know, get triggered into more discussions and make more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, we're just pretty much wrapping it up.
Yes, please.
Credit card?
Yes, please.
Ty пешком? Really? Okay. Oh boy, I have to decide now if I want to go to town. I think I'm too lazy.
So is there anything else?
Probably, but this was good.
Yeah, it's enough for now.
Yeah, it's enough for now.
You can always talk more and more.
Yeah. So if there's a guy out there right now and he's totally unhappy, life sucks, nothing's going right, but he somehow found this podcast. And he's like, I have to do something. What will be the one thing you'd say to start doing?
Be kind to yourself. Yeah. And be aware of how you're giving yourself kindness. Don't just indulge in what comforts you, but be really kind to yourself. Like self-love sometimes is fierce.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It can also just mean taking a nice hot bath, as well. But I'd say just be kind to yourself. Self-blame is like, wow, this is the worst. And usually that's the root of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We are where we are, not necessarily like, life is impersonal.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
We take it so personally.
Yeah. Self-hatred or guilt or any of these feelings when we really attack ourselves, it's the worst.
It's like the heaviest.
It's the heaviest. Like it's really attacking yourself.
And it maintains the pain.
Yeah. It's brutal.
Yeah. So if you are doing that, if you're in self-shame, guilt, I would I would say be as present as you can with that shame and guilt, and be present with it. Feel it. Like don't avoid it, but go into it. Go into that pain, and let it be heard. Right? Let it be. It wants to be heard. So hear it out to the point that you become familiar with it, to the point where you can transcend it, like with attention and love. Like just it's kind of like burn it out with the light, you know. Mm-hmm. But it has to be given attention. Can't be avoided, but not indulged in. It's like such a fine line, because you could indulge in self-pity that's not what I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, feel what needs to be felt.
Feel what needs to be felt enough so that you can feel it exactly, so that you can move through it. Mm-hmm. And it'll come back, maybe, you know, it probably will, it usually does. But that's the same process. Mm. That's my way, you know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it helps, because if you can't, what is it? If you want to heal it, feel it, right?
The feeling is the healing.
Feeling is the healing.
That's right. Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah. And
we're trained so much to suppress everything, when it's actually feel it, which means you might have to cry or scream, go into the woods and scream, or even, you know, get a pillow and punch the pillow, or whatever you got to do.
Whatever you got to do, and feel it in your body. Is there a contraction in your throat? Do you feel it in your shoulders? You know, is it in your back? Like, get into your body as well. So, because your body is just is the other side of your mind. So, see where it's being, you know, expressed through your body, because you can also just feel it in your body and release it there too. Release the contraction in your body. I was just reading a book on Zen, and it was saying, you know, you don't want to try to achieve any state of mind. You want to put your body in the right posture, and then the mind will follow naturally. Because if your mind is trying to relax, it's kind of tough, you know. So just relax the body, get into the body, and then the mind will follow.
Yeah, I've had some real moments of peace and bliss just doing yoga or stretching or whatever, just things where just I'm being, or even getting a massage where I'm just being good to the body, allows you to just let go.
Yeah.
Nature's really good. Rivers are really good.
Yeah, nature is my best teacher by any means. It's just there. It's just amazing. Yeah, so I grew up near nature, so that was always in the forest and the rivers, and it's just, for me, like the ultimate. And super feminine. If we're talking about masculine and feminine, for me, nature is very feminine. So like if I'm feeling like I need some nurturing, nature is the way to go. Yeah. Or a woman, that's another way. But you know, if you don't have a woman. Yeah.
A tree's just as good. Yeah. Actually, I'm on a shirt.
In some ways better, but in some ways not as good, right?
If you don't have a woman, get a tree.
Yeah, go sit under a tree, buy a little creek or something if you have that opportunity. It's just like, yeah.
Say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye. Thank you.
We'll be back. I know we'll be back with more. Love you guys. Peace out.